Hello everybody, we're back here and we're going to be doing a setup using the Electrolyzer from Immersive Intelligence. And how we're going to do it is we're going to be using two mixers, and then we'll go into the Electrolyzer and then out into silos and then back into another mixer, and this will make the etching chemical that we were looking for. This will make the advanced circuit cards that are in the Immersive Intelligence. Alright, so without ado, I'm going to show you how I do it, because some of it's a little convoluted and some of it is a little weird and quirky, the way the pipes have to go in order to get it into that from the electrolyzer into the next mixer. Alright, so hope you enjoy. Alright, so first off, let's make a mixer. Let's go over here to our bunch of material. First we're going to go into here, mixer, blah blah blah. Here's your parts that you need, the different stages, how this menu works. If it's moving on you, you can stop it, and if you just want to look at one section, you can go up and down, move it around, and you can see how to build it. And then what you have in your inventory that matches will show up as a complete for a check mark, green check mark. Alright, so moving on. We got 5 scaffolding, 3 fluid pumps, 4 light engineer blocks, redstone engineering block, 4 iron sheet metal, and 1 steel fence. Once you've gotten the material, you can start laying it down. Now, it's important to note your placement. So, how I have this placed is you can see the front. This is your control. And that's usually going to be your output. And this is pretty much standard with the Immersive Engineer. It gets a little different with the Intelligent Engineer. But you can see the control box is right there. Well, it's over there. Alright, so this is going to be your output. This side's going to be your input. So face it the way you want it. You got your water supply feeding this or something. That's where it's going to come in. You can plan accordingly. Alright, so very simple. Light engineering block in the corner. Wrap it around some pipes, and then wrap that around with some scaffolding. That's all the scaffolding. There's 5 scaffolding there. The next layer, 2 light engineering blocks on top of the first one, and then over the pipe. And then you're going to take your 4 metal sheets and put them back there, and then place a red controller up front. And that's it. So in order to activate this, we're going to slap it right here with a right click. Boom. If it actually worked. Oh, hold on. Steel fence. We're not quite done yet. Let me go ahead and fix this. Okay. We got a 3rd layer on this one. Alright. So, right in the very middle, a light engineering block and the steel fence post. Once you've done that, then you can go over here and right click. Boom. Alright, notice your output's there and your input's there. Now, when you start hooking this up, you're going to think about, oh, let's go ahead and make a pipe to our next device. Well, that would be a bad idea, because what will end up happening is your water that you're sucking through here is just going to go right pass through the equipment and into the next equipment. So we fix that by putting in a Redstone Controller fuel valve. And what's interesting about this is it has some characteristics of some of the servos that you've seen in some of the other mod packs. Just note that the long line is the base, and the short line is where it's going. Alright? So you might set it up and it might be like this or this. Well, this is not going to flow. So you got to switch it like this so the output goes this way. All right. Now, what we're using to get this to work is we're using redstone wire. And so what's critical about this, and we don't, let's circle back to this because I don't want to turn it on at the moment. Let's go ahead and go over the water pump. So what we're making is a brine solution. That's salt. We're going to be mixing salt, pulverized salt, with water. So first we're going to add a water source to it. We're going to use a fluid pump. And one thing to note about the fluid pump, which I had a beautiful example over here, but I was exploding things. As you can see, there's craters everywhere. You'll note on the pumps, the input is always at the bottom. It always starts off with an input at the bottom. So when you place it, just know that that input's going to be at the bottom. So they require a switch to turn it on and off. Now, this is a little unique. The lever state is on. That means it's going to pump water. However, on the immersive equipment, the multi-block equipment, if the switch is in the on state, it means that the equipment is shunted. Now, you can change that, but it will naturally be like this. But if you want to change it to where on means on, then all you have to do is click this part with your hammer, and you'll see that it's moving now. It's working. That's because now on is equal to on. It's inverted. So, but we don't want that. We want to keep it default. So when you first set it up, this is how it's going to be. If your lever is on, that means that the equipment is off. It's shunning, it's turning off the power. All right. So you'll also notice I have power feeding this. If you don't have power feeding on this, the pump will work, but very, very slowly and very inefficiently. So just go ahead and attach a low voltage wire to it and drizzle some power to it. This will fill up very fast. Let's go ahead and get rid of this extra stuff. I was making another video, but it didn't come out very well with the audio. All right, so water is being pumped in through here, and you'll notice that there's an orange square right here. Well, you're going to see a flat face on the side, no orange squares. You're going to have to click this with your hammer. This will give you an input port. The next click will give you an output, and then click it back will give you a solid face. And stupid birds need to shut up. All right, so make sure that your outgoing pipe is attached to an output port. All right, so once we got that connected, you'll see this is the input port. Let's get a pipe, and that's where the water's coming in. Blue is input. All right, so let's go back around here. So we want to make brine. Brine requires salt. So what we'll do is we'll go ahead and turn it on, and now it will start making brine. And you'll see that this will be going up. And it will continue to go up as it makes brine until it fills it all the way to the top. Now you'll note right here, output only bottom, fuel. Now, if you filled this up with water and you hadn't started the equipment, yet you had this pipe connected, water would just simply pass through the equipment because the output bottom is water. There is no brine in it yet because it hasn't been started. So that's why you got to be careful, because then this equipment will fill up with water and you'll start producing oxygen and hydrogen, which is not what we're looking for. We're looking for chlorine and hydrogen. So let's go ahead and change our day back to day. All right, so now we have some brine going. We want to get that into our electrolyzer. So let's go ahead and talk about how that's built. All right, so once again, here's the book. There you are. And so this is just a 2-stack item. So that's really good because that means that there's less items in it. So 4 light, 6 heavy, 4 metal barrels. There will be iron. I believe that's the only ones that you can make. And 2 blocks of steel. All right. So we have all our stuff. This is all you're going to need. So the first stage. Now orientation, this is key. All right. This side is going to be the output. I mean the input. Right here on this block is input. All right. And I'll show you over here. See how it looks like it? These look like steel blocks. Like steel blocks. Your input part, your import, blah, blah, input is going to be on this side, and on the other side is going to be your power. Now, because this doesn't have a Redstone Controller, the block that has power on it will shunt the equipment if you put a switch there. So let's go back over here. So now that we realize that this is going to be our input, and this part right back here is going to be our output ports, make sure that you set it into your facility as accordingly. All right, so let's go over the build. Here's your light engineering blocks, steel block, 3 heavy engineering blocks, 2 light blocks, and a steel block. The next level, put a line of heavy engineering blocks down the center, and then on both sides 2 barrels, and 2 barrels over here. And then in order to activate this, you'll go over to the front side, which let's go over here and we'll go ahead and activate this one. Boop. You hit it right here on this top cube. All right. So go ahead and we hook up our pipe with nothing connected to it, nothing flowing to it, because we don't want it to trigger. We hook up our power. Low voltage power seems to be just perfect for this. So there's no need to juice it up a whole bunch. So once again, I don't know if you can invert this. Yep, you can invert this block. All right, so you can do the same thing over there as over here. If you want on to be on, then go ahead and invert it. But if you want it to be default the way you built it, then if the lever is off, that means that the equipment's on. So if we turn this on, this thing is now not working. It's not powered. All right, so another thing that's very interesting to note is we have these 2 tanks here, but which tank is going to be which tank? And so what you'll see here is you have an upper tank and a lower tank. This upper tank is actually over here. So if you look at it, picture the equipment as if you're facing it right here. All right, stop it. You're facing the front side. And if you go into the GUI and you're standing right here, this tank is going to be the top tank. This tank is going to be this tank over here. So this tank is that. This tank is this. So now another thing to note is this. There's a quirk to this. You can't come off straight. You actually have to do a 90 bend down. See how I did a 90 bend down? And then right here, there's a 90 bend down here. For some strange reason, you just can't go up, straight up with a 90 up, or coming straight out to your equipment. You need to do the bend. Now, you can do this, which is weird. If you want, you can go ahead and just come back up. So you do this weird little loop-de-doop. It'll still recognize the bend, I guess gravity, and then take it up to your, I guess, the top port, because both ports are acceptable on the silo. So you can go and pop it right there too if you want, or come into the sides. Now you have to remember on the silo, your bottom port right here is your output. And so that's very important to note. Near input ports are right here at the base and then also on the top. Now this guy is full of hydrogen right now. Let's go ahead and defeat that because it's been running. So now it's all cleared out. There's nothing going to it. We could get rid of this pipe if we want, or we can keep it pretty and just do this. Just remember when you go to design it and you're coming out of the electrolyzer, make that 90 bend downward. And then you can go back up, right up against that same pipe or wherever to your equipment. Just make that 90 down. It's weird. I don't know why it does this. The reason why I use the glass tubing in here is to show you the fluid actually going into it and then back up. And also to make this port visible because this covers it up. But this is immersive, and this is a little silly. But we're going to put this here in place to just kind of show you what's going on. All right, so right over here is our second mixer. So our chlorine is going to go into here and fill up this tank. Now, the other quirky thing is you can't directly feed this mixer with this electrolyzer. I tried. It does not work. I'd used pumps. I fired a missile at it. Nothing worked. Hit it with my sword. Still no effect. I had to go and bring it into a silo. So once it's in the silo, then I can dump it out into the equipment and it works just fine. The only thing that you need to remember is you got to put a lever on the silo in order for it to dump. So if I want it to dump, I click the on. And now we'll start pumping fluid into there. So let's make sure we didn't fill it with anything. Good, it's nice and clean. Now, so say you want to use this for multiple liquids. Well, the best way to do that is to simply prime your tanks. So if you have that fluid, say etching acid, you can put it in here and then none of the output will go into this tank except for etching fluid. And if you had something like some other fluid that you want, say brine, you could put it in here and then attach a tank to it. And now you have two outputs that will actually go out of the equipment, out through this pipe and into this line. However, brine will end up here and your etching acid will end up here. If you ever get it contaminated and say you pass water through it, just break the block and it will erase everything that's in there. Same thing with the equipment. All right, so let's go ahead and move on and actually start sending some brine over. Now let's go back over to this controller valve. It's a Redstone one. There's, I think, one that actually operates off of energy. We're not using that one. So remember, T faces the equipment, and the base of the T, goes this way. So just kind of picture this as kind of an arrow. All right. And it got dark again because I'm long-winded. All right. So, redstone wiring. How does this work? Well, it's pretty interesting. Let's see if we can't... I don't really know how to change the colors, but you can change the colors, but with a hammer, I think it's a wrench or something that can change the color, or you can use the brush, and you can change the colors at no cost. But the only thing that we're really worried about, and also you can attach your redstone here, okay? And instead of going straight to there, you can go into a purple one, a blue one, and whatever. But because this one was, the initial one was gray, or white, I think that's what it's called, white, the default color, it will only light up the one that's set for output that's also white. It won't set off a one that is blue or whatever. So you could use a common line and then string off a white somewhere, and that will just use the length. Sorry, I hit my mic. All right, so how do these things work? Well, if I set this to output, then it's not going to send this redstone single over there. So you'll note that there's a little orange band there. We want, the default is blue, it's input. And so this one, when you first plug it down, it's going to be input. And you're going to say, oh, why is it not working? Well, it needs to output. So go ahead and click it, and this will turn orange. And now you have output, and now it's opened up this control vent. And it's going to be sending brine over into this, filling it up. So let's take a look at what's going on. This is happening so fast that you can't see the brine happening, but as long as you have salt in there and this thing's moving, brine is being made. All right, so we're back to this equipment. Right now it's in the off position. We're going to switch it on, and it's going to start making our gases, or fluid gases, or whatever you might want to call it. And you see that little flicker there? See? Flew it right up into it. So we're going to fill up this tank a little bit before we send it over. And it really doesn't take too long. Once you got enough brine in there, it's gonna start filling up pretty fast. And this is just gonna, there we go. Watch out with my hammer. All right, so let's go ahead and start sending fluid over down this pipe, out the output of the silo. All right, and now it's filling up. And iron, pulverized iron, is then going to convert this to the next thing. And one thing I forgot is we got to turn it off, because off means on. Remember that. We live in Bizarro land. All right, so now it's going to convert it. And because we have it already hooked up to a pipe, it's going to start filling this guy up. So if we watch, it should start, yep, see, .9, it's going to change to 26. All right, so it's working. We got our acid in there, and everything's nice and happy. This thing is swirling around, chlorine, everything's all good. All right, so just remember, there's some nuances here. Going down from the electrolyzer, make sure you put a switch here to get the stuff out of the silo. And remember that you don't want to immediately start sending stuff in here until you have the brine already started, or your solution that you want to pass through. If you're just going to be making hydrogen, then yeah, just pass your water through here. Don't put an ingredient in there, and it'll just feed water in here, and then you'll just be making hydrogen and oxygen. And I guess that's for rocket fuel, or at least air for your space age, I guess, or scuba tanks. All right, so there you go.